Going on, guys? With the GOAT. If you don't know me, you will. Back at it again with another video. Owning a diesel truck in 2024. Should you do it? The pros, the cons. Is it really worth it? All right, so as you see here, y'all seen this before. Got the 2017 F250 Platinum, baby. You know, Platinum only. Feel me? Got the 26 by 16 4Gs on it. Lifted 6 inches. Basic build, tuned, deleted. You know, regular stuff. So do I think this is the right choice? So I've had this truck for almost a year now. Yeah, almost a year. A couple months will make a year. Do I think this is the right decision? For me specifically, yes. I enjoy vehicles. Like, I'm a car connoisseur, you know what I'm saying? For lack of better terms. And it's just something I love. So for me, it itches my scratch. Or no, scratch is my itch. There you go, that's the correct terminology. Let's talk about gas mileage. I'm a type of person that's more miles per gallon than miles per gallon. On an average, I'm making maybe like 10, 11, 12, 13 if we're being real generous on the highway. If I'm driving like a complete asshole, most likely about 7, 8 miles per gallon. So if you're looking for miles per gallon, if you're looking for efficiency, this is not it for you. Now, why did I go diesel and not gasoline? Diesel trucks last longer. They're good mostly for, 400,000 miles without any major maintenance, just oil changes, basic stuff. Obviously, those of you guys who know, this has a CP4. I already did a CP4 bypass kit. I don't know if I talked about that before in a previous video. So the truck is basically bulletproofed, especially now that it's deleted. So this truck will probably go 500,000 miles with no major issues. Transmission is smooth. Everything shifts smooth, even with the DP5 switch that I got on there. The switch on the fly tune, everything works great. So for me, this works. For a lot of people, it won't. Is it practical, especially due to the fact that I live in a city? Definitely not. Think about this, especially if you're getting a stance lifted truck. I know a lot of people don't like that rubber band setup or the wides. I know you guys like that bubble look or whatever, but even with that, even if your truck is just lifted, you gotta think about where can I park in the city, especially you guys that don't live in the suburbs. Where can I park that they're not gonna break into it? Because like I said, I live in Atlanta, so I'd be paying for a window every week, depending on where I park. So it's a lot of things to think about. And then just even driving down the street, especially with mine, I have 2.5 or 3 inch spacers with 26 by 16. So you got to think about driving lane to lane. Can you really drive and have less than an inch on each side? Like, there's little to no room for error when you're driving. The practicality of that stuff is just gas mileage, parking, just driving in general. Do you have space, especially in a metropolitan or city area? Probably not. Probably not a good idea to get a big pickup truck. So practicality wise, I give this a score of maybe like 3, 4. But when it comes to moving stuff, when it comes to having people in your truck, like if you want to take your family out or whatever, you have plenty of space versus a small car. So, there's positives and negatives. And I don't put diesel in there often because I don't drive this that often. It's not my main vehicle. This is like my weekend car. You know what I'm saying? So it's just something that I'm working on. I already bought it modified, so I didn't have to do much, okay? So now that I said that, let's actually get into that. Part of this video, I wanna talk about this because I think it's a very high misconception of like, oh, if you don't build your truck, it's not shit, whatever, blah, blah. So let's talk about numbers wise. Do you think it makes sense to build a truck like this, especially for you guys who are not making over 6 figures? Does it make sense to build a truck like this, put over 50, 60, even $100,000 at times that I've seen people put into this truck, to drive it around, even if you don't sell it, but you guys probably haven't paid it off? Because I know when this truck dropped, it was like, what, 90 grand? For a new Platinum, you're looking at 130, and then to put another $80,000 in it, like, you have to be making at least over $300,000 to comfortably say, hey, yeah, I built my truck versus buying one that's moderately used with a nice moderate build and then adding your little pieces on there, you know, to make it yours. To me, if you're looking at getting into a diesel truck, that's the smarter decision if you ask me. That's what I did. It's working better for me. Yes, there are cons. Yes, I had to replace spacers because they weren't hub-centric. The, what do you call them? The bolts that were in there, if I'm not saying the correct terminology, excuse me, but the bolts that were in there bent. You know, you got stuff like that. As you see right here, take a look. The exhaust tip that was on there originally fell off because I'm in the city. I hit potholes all the time. So guess what? I had to buy another one. It's in the truck now, just haven't had a chance to put it on. Simple stuff like that. When I replaced the mirror lights to put the switchbacks on, they, the ones that, the mirror caps didn't actually clip back on, had to kind of glue them. You can't really tell because we did a good job, but when I switched the lights, because they had painted them before to paint match them to the rest of the body, you know, it didn't fit back the way it was supposed to. So you got to think about certain things that you don't know that the previous owner did, and now you have to kind of make up for it and figure out what the hell is going on with the truck, because you don't really know. Other than maintenance wise, well, even if, you know, sometimes people don't go to the Ford dealership. Lucky the person that I bought it from, all the maintenance was done at Ford, so I could see everything and be like, okay, at least the drivetrain is in order. All the other stuff is little things that we can work on and get right. So when it comes to, you know, getting a pickup truck, especially a diesel pickup truck, and putting money into it, like, look at this, bags. Adding a bag assist on the truck, the lift kit, the rims, the paint match. The paint match alone is probably like $4 or $5 grand. You gotta think about all those pieces. So all this stuff starts to tally up and you're like, I could have just bought the truck for like 50, 60,000 already done and then added maybe like 10 grand into it versus buying it for 90, 100 brand new, putting 60, 70 in it and then losing money. Because I guarantee you the person that sold it to me lost money. He probably is like 60, 70 grand deep into a truck where he bought for 90 grand and he sold it for around 50 something, 60 grand. I don't remember at the time, but probably around 60 grand. So granted, it's an older truck, but the same thing applies to any newer vehicle. So that's one thing I'll say about that. All right, so let's talk about the next thing here. The shock and awe is what I like to call it. So driving something like this, you got shock and awe. Like when you pull up, it has a presence. Curb presence is what I call it. So a lot of vehicles don't have curb presence. You pull up in, no disrespect to you guys, but if you pull up in a Honda Accord, it's not the same curb presence as this. Like, especially when I'm taking my business meetings or I'm meeting somebody very important, like a mentor or something like that. How you dress, how you look, how you speak, how you enunciate yourself, how you pull up, everything matters. So when I pull up in this, people take me more serious. Like, I have other cars. I have a Crown Vic, an '08 Crown Vic. You guys probably seen it on some of my reels. Now, me pulling up in that to a meeting versus this in a meeting, who are you gonna take more serious? Let's just be real here. So when it comes to turning heads, curb presence, this is definitely it. Like, me and Sid here, we're gonna go on a short little drive and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. Literally every time I pull up next to somebody at a light or I'm driving people on the sidewalk, everybody's breaking their neck because they're not seeing stuff like this, especially not in the city. Maybe in the suburbs, you won't get as much curb presence, but in the city, this definitely stands out. Just look at it, like paint matched. The paint is flawless for the most part versus, you know, rock chips, but it comes with that type of stance. Big chrome rims, you can't go wrong with it. All right, so for the last part, we're gonna talk about money. The most important thing when it comes to this truck. Diesel trucks, any pickup truck really in general, especially a Ford. I just gotta be real with you guys. When it comes to money, we gotta talk about how much money is gonna cost to buy it. How much money is gonna cost to maintain it. How much money is it gonna cost to fill up? All that matters because you gotta look into all of that. Especially with a diesel truck, you gotta really increase the price point that you're looking at. So Number one, diesel trucks are definitely more expensive. You're putting diesel in there. So I have a 50-gallon tank, give or take. So it costs me what, about $200, depending on where I'm at. If I'm in the city, like $230 to make a full fill from damn near empty to fill. Insurance, I'm paying about 300 something on this, full coverage. My monthly payments are damn near $800 because I only put a small percentage down. Because when you understand how debt works, you understand there's no reason to buy things out in cash, especially when they lose value. This doesn't lose value as quick as other vehicles, like as quick as a car, but they still loses value. It's a diesel truck, you'll always be able to sell it, but it still loses value. So when you sit here and think about it, add all that money up. You're paying $800 plus maybe $300 or $400 in insurance, depending on your age, because I'm younger, so I'm under 25, so my insurance is automatically higher. If you're older, maybe it won't apply to you as much, but full coverage, I'm paying 300 something. For me to change tires on this, especially with my setup, and this depends on your setup, but for me specifically, it'll cost me around $2,000 just to change 2 tires. If I'm doing a full change, it's about $4,000 because each tire is about $600, right? You're gonna pay for mounting and balancing for each tire. So the labor in that, for most places, if you can even find somebody that wants to mount 26s, it's gonna be probably around $530 for labor. So you do the math. After it's all said and done, after taxes, you see what you're looking at. Certain places, you can't even really like bring this for service. Like, you just gotta be realistic, especially a lifted one. And not everybody works on diesel. So you have to think about all these different things, especially being in the city. Like, I don't take my truck here. I drive my truck almost 2 hours to get service. So you have to think about all these things before you get into it and make a decision. This is like owning a supercar. It's not as, bad, but you still have to think about things before doing it, especially building a show truck or a pretty truck. This is not a work truck. So you have to look at these things and really think like, hey, what can I do? Or how am I gonna handle this when shit does happen? Because it's gonna happen. It's not if, it's when. So you have to think about these things ahead of time. Another thing that happened for my Ford guys, and it will happen to you because it's Ford. My sunroof broke. That was a band. So think about all these things before you just jump into it and be like, hey, I want a diesel truck or I want a pickup truck. But specifically a diesel truck, I wouldn't recommend it, especially as bad as the economy is getting. If you don't have a career or hustle that you can really keep paying for this and not suffer, I wouldn't advise doing it because at the end of the day, you matter more than what you're driving. Luckily, I'm in a good career field. I make enough money to be able to afford these things. But what I tell just the random average person, if you're not making over at least 130, I would say don't do it. It'd be a lot of money you'll be throwing away, a lot. So that's pretty much all I got for you guys on this. Just some informational stuff, what I see, especially with today's climate and how the economy is. Just think about these things before you do them. I know everything looks nice on Instagram, on YouTube, but always keep it real with yourself and understand, hey, should I put myself in this hole to look nice on YouTube, Instagram? Can I really afford this? Is it really a good idea? Because when things go bad, other things go worse. So remember that when something goes bad in your life and you still got to pay that almost $1,000 car payment and insurance, and then you blow a tire, and then your transmission messes up, and then somebody breaks into your truck, all these things still got to be paid. So never forget that, man. It's a pretty thing to look at, but it costs to be the boss. Feel me? All right, though.